All right, what up, what up? Welcome into the sweat. It's a Thursday, just a few days away from the big game down in Atlanta. Brendan Glasheen, Tyler Sullivan.
Yep, that is my name. Sit tight. We are going to talk Super Bowl 53 in a moment. This is the DK Live team is down in Atlanta, but we got to start basketball here because let's face it, the NBA, it runs the world, or at least the internet here. It's just gone absolutely insane because the Knicks have traded Kristaps Porzingis to the Dallas Mavericks. Courtney Lee, Tim Hardaway Jr. are also heading to the Lone Star State, while Wesley Matthews, Dennis Smith Jr., and DeAndre Jordan, along with some picks, are on their way to the Big Apple.
All right, Knicks are not part of tonight's six-game slate in the association. With all of that, let's say hello to our NBA panel, Julian Edlow, RotoWire's Alex Barutha, and Awesemo.com's Chris Spagnolo. Guys, what's up?
How's it going?
Yeah, you know, just another day in the NBA there. So first up, though, Alex, let's get that knee-jerk reaction here of this Porzingis trade.
I mean, the first thing that I thought of was how fun it's going to be to have Luka and Porzingis play together on the same team. And then I immediately kind of, thought about fantasy implications and DeAndre Jordan going to New York. We saw Luke Cornett kind of emerge as a fantasy option for a while, and he's just getting healthy, but I just don't know how much time for him is left anymore.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting there. All right, Chris, what do you think of this blockbuster in the NBA?
I think it's a win for everybody involved from both like a real life basketball perspective and a fantasy one. Getting Tim Hardaway out of New York is going to open a lot of usage up for those young players to kind of develop more. Hardaway, just a big ball hog. I think if Wesley Matthews stays on the team, he's going to be a better version of what Hardaway gave them. If he and Jordan get bought out, even better. You'll have more runway for the Knicks, more chance of a better pick. For the Mavericks, same thing. We're going to probably see a lot of minutes from Dwight Powell tonight. Going to see what Jalen Brunson has to offer. I think there's a lot of interesting moves here. Both teams got a little bit younger, a little worse for the Knicks. But I think the future looks bright for both, and that's all you can want out of a trade.
Yeah, that's kind of what the Knicks want, I think. Not to be particularly good, get themselves in that Zion Williamson sweepstakes there, along with...
And cap space.
Yeah, cap space, the all-important cap space there. Julian, what do you think of this blockbuster in the NBA?
I mean, here's the thing. Are we sure this cap space and ability to tank maybe a little bit more is worth getting rid of Kristaps Porzingis? This was like a top 3, top 5 asset in the NBA. The day he tore his ACL about a year ago. And Porzingis, was he really going to play again for the Knicks this year? So if they land the #1 pick and get Zion Williamson, it's because they traded Porzingis. No, they could have had Porzingis and Zion Williamson. I think this is a brutal deal for the Knicks from a real basketball standpoint. The only way they can make it worth it for them is they better capitalize on these 2 max spots that they're going to have coming up this summer. That means they need to get a Kevin Durant, a Kyrie Irving, a Kawhi Leonard, a Jimmy Butler, a Klay Thompson, really 2 of them. And the way things are going in New York, that doesn't look like it's going to happen. So I hate it for the Knicks from a basketball standpoint. From a fantasy standpoint, yeah, getting Tim Hardaway Jr. out of there. Dennis Smith Jr. is probably going to be the starting point guard there the rest of the year. Get a lot of minutes, get a lot of usage there, and some of these other young players like Kevin Knox can develop. For Dallas, yeah, the big question is when are we going to see Doncic and Porzingis on the floor together, and how is it going to work? Will it be a long-term landing spot for Porzingis? Could this be a good young team in the West? In terms of tonight's slate, nobody is going for the Mavericks. Luka Doncic is injured after playing in New York last night. He's going to sit this one out, and then all the players that were traded are gone. So, yeah, you've got Maxi Kleber is going to be in a great spot. Dwight Powell, Jalen Brunson, down to Dorian Finney-Smith, Harrison Barnes. These guys are all going to be really strong plays just looking at this slate alone.
To Julian's point, back in 2010 when LeBron left Cleveland the first time, the Knicks swung and missed at getting LeBron. They settled for Amari Stoudemire. Anyway, we'll move on to the slate. Julian started hitting on it there. You guys are going to set the picks. We'll do the rolls in this game of pick and roll in the NBA, choosing between some of the top options at each position. Julian, we'll go right back to you. At point guard, Steph Curry, 8,900 against the Sixers, or do you go to his counterpart, Ben Simmons, at 8,600?
Yeah, I prefer to go with Steph here, and it has been a little tricky with DeMarcus Cousins back in the mix. You just have so much talent there. Trying to figure out whose night it's going to be for the Warriors can be difficult. But compared to Simmons on the other side, I think this matchup does set up a lot better for Embiid. The Warriors, even with Cousins, are going to struggle defending big men. So I like the spot more for Embiid on the Sixers side. So just kind of by default, I'll go with Curry there. But I think that Curry or Durant, both kind of high floor, safe cash plays on this slate. And just more so than Simmons, where you can kind of a wild card, really lower floor, although you do get a high ceiling.
Alex, you have a case for Simmons, or are you in agreement with Julian?
No, I do like Simmons here. I mean, I generally am more of a GPP player, which is kind of what Jules was getting at. And we've seen, Ben Simmons go for 45 fantasy points last game, 40 fantasy points the game before, and he had a 61. I mean, Jimmy Butler was out, but at the same time, they're going to need all the minutes they can get out of Embiid, Simmons, and Butler to take down the Warriors. And I mean, we've seen when DeMarcus Cousins coming back, there's just so many mouths to feed on the Warriors. I really just get nervous from an upside perspective with the entire team. So I would rather go Simmons here.
Chris, break the tie.
Yeah, I'm in the same camp with the worries about the usage there, like both Alex and Julian said. There's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense now. Steph Curry has shot around 15 times 3 out of the last 4 games. It's not where you need him to be for really succeeding at all in any sort of slate. So today I would take half the ownership according to what we have him projected for at Osmo.com. Go to Ben Simmons, hope that he has a bigger day, save the money because the Warriors here just need to figure some stuff out. There's too many mouths to feed, too many guys trying to shoot. It's hard to hit value when you're doing that, whereas everybody on Sixers is going to have to hit value for them to stay in this game.
All right, moving on to the locomotives here, the big guys. We have Vucevic at 9,500 versus the Pacers, or you go with the Detroit Pistons big man Andre Drummond, 8,100 against the Mavericks, who are completely in disarray here, Spag. So where are we going here tonight?
It's got to be Andre Drummond here. I mean, there's really not a big of note who's even close to the size of Drummond here. I think Dwight Powell's a great player. I think he's going to have a good day. They're going to have him and it looks like Slav Mejri both in the mix versus Drummond here. But those are not guys who can keep up with Drummond, especially if the Mavericks are going to be breaking shots with whatever also Rands and G Leaguers are going to put out there tonight.
All right.
So yeah, I think it's a great spot for Drummond. Roll with him.
All right, Alex, do you agree with that? Is Drummond just kind of the easy play here tonight?
Yeah, I feel like Drummond is the guy I would put in my lineup. You have Vucevic going up against Miles Turner and Thaddeus Young and Domantas Sabonis, which is a pretty big front line. On the other hand, I mean, the Dallas Mavericks might have 8 guys available, like we mentioned. I mean, Dwight Powell's a solid player. Mejri seems like he's going to suit up, but I mean, Andre Drummond has 10 games with over 20 rebounds under his belt. It wouldn't surprise me if he got that again here. And in those games, he averages 58 fantasy points. So when you get him at a reduced price with potentially a similar upside to Vucevic, I think he's ultimately the way to go.
All right, Julian, can you make the case for Vucevic, or maybe is Drummond too chalky in this one because of what's going on with Dallas, or do you just have to go with a guy like that with that opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, I was ready to make the case for Vucevic earlier in the day. He has topped 50 DraftKings points in 4 of his last 5 games. He is the kind of guy that can battle through a bad matchup and have a good game. If you want to pay $1,400 more for him, you will probably get him at very low ownership on tonight's slate because Drummond is going to draw a lot of attention there at 8,100. And then you've got Embiid, who should be a really popular play against the Warriors, at 10,100. So Vucevic kind of finds himself in the middle in a perceived bad matchup. He could be a nice GPP play if he can outscore one or both of those guys. But if you're picking straight up between Drummond and Vucevic here, you've got to save the salary and go with Drummond. It's too good of a spot. He just had 23 points and 15 rebounds against the Mavericks 2 games ago, and now he's going to be going up against literally a front court with no bodies. So he's just too good of a spot for Andre Drummond here.
Thanks, boys. We'll be talking to you throughout the course of the night. Don't leave your phones even for a second because all that news in the NBA just keeps coming in. If you need some practice, I know a guy, Adam Kaufman. He never leaves his phone. He joins us in Atlanta. Here's a preview.
Hey, what's going on? Adam Kaufman here with you in Atlanta. Super Bowl 53 is upon us. We're looking for entertainment ahead of the game. All day today, tomorrow, and Saturday, the day before, we're at the DraftKings house, powered by Sam Adams. If you're in the area, come on and join us. Plenty of athletes, celebrity guests, media types, lots of people at the Braves All-Star Sports Bar and Grill. You want to make sure you come. I've already talked with a couple of defending champs from the Philadelphia Eagles in Nelson Aguilar and Malcolm Jenkins. Got lots of great thoughts from them on the quarterback situation, controversy in the league, and a whole lot more. We're going to have Luke Kuechly coming by, among several others. And again, maybe some special surprises that you don't want to miss, that they won't be promoted. You got to come down and see if you run into these special folks. So come on, join us, stay with us. If you can't make it to the area, on our social media accounts, I'm talking Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, all over Twitter, the DraftKings page, the DK Live page, the Sweat page. We're going to be everywhere these next few days, and you want to be part of it. Stay with us.
Not a bad gig there for Koff getting down to Atlanta for Super Bowl 53.
DraftKings house. Looks like fun.
Sounds like a good time there. All right, welcome back to the Sweat here. We're back up north here. 3 days before Super Bowl 53. I can't wait. It's going to be an absolutely great game. And you know what? Let's not let this crew wait any longer here. I know we had that Porzingis news to start the show here, but let's get the DK Live trio in the house here. Pierce Dietrich, Reed Fowler, and Gary and Thorne to join the sweat here. Boys, let's look at this matchup here. It's going to be great.
Yeah, let's chase or fade. Gents, agree or disagree with the following statements. The
Hey,
DK
what's going on, Adam?
Sportsbook, Pierce, gives plus 100 odds for Tom Brady to throw for under 299.5 passing yards. Chase or fade that? Brady chucks for under 300 yards.
Fade this. This is a ripoff. Plus 100 for under 3. You should get at least plus 250 for this. I don't know anyone that's going to take this bet. This is crazy. We all know he's going over 300. It's Brady. It's the Super Bowl. You look at the last 13 playoff games for him. I think in 12 of them, he's went over 300 yards. He's averaging 340 yards passing over that span for all those games. That's a long span, by the way. And he's went over 340 in both games this year. No way he could. This is what? Who came up with these odds?
Can't reveal that. Reed, do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, he didn't get 300 yards 11 times this season. So to Pierce's point, that number should be juiced up way past or way over plus 100. And if you look at his recent playoff history, to what Pierce alluded to, I mean, he's only done this where he's gone under 300 3 times since 2015, and one game he hit 290. So, I mean, if this guy is going to throw for over 300 yards, don't take this bet.
Gary, in agreement?
Yeah, I have to fade it from a gambling perspective, but honestly, if this was just a standard chase fade question, I would chase it. I don't think Brady's going to need to throw for 300 yards in this game. To Reed's point, he only did it 7 times throughout the 18 games of this season, and I know playoff Brady is apparently different than regular season Brady, but at the same time, I think they can just run the football on the Rams. Most teams have run the football on the Rams, and granted, the Rams are not the Chiefs in terms of how terrible they are defensively against the run, but they're not dissimilar, and really the common denominator is the fact that the Patriots' offensive line has been dominant run blocking so far this season. They are the only AFC team to generate over 5 adjusted line yards per carry. I think this is another big day for Sony Michel and Rex Burkhead.
Yeah, you referenced the backfield there with the Patriots, and you referenced Rex Burkhead there, the AFC Championship hero. He's plus 1,300 to score 2+ touchdowns. So chase or fade, Burkhead getting in the end zone more than once here, Reed.
Man, I gotta fade this. Like the numbers, I mean, plus 1,300. That's fantastic and right. And to Pierce's point, which I know he's going to mention, is that really you could play all types. You could play all New England running backs. Maybe not necessarily in this specific game, but you look at Rex Burkhead, you just look at that recency bias. He did this on 12 carries, and to see that type of efficiency and that split between these running backs being quite similar. I mean, James White did it right in Super Bowl 52, where he got 3 touchdowns. Gronk too, and so. It's really hard for these guys, especially a guy like Burkhead, to get this. I'm going to fade. That number is enticing, though, plus 1,300. I'm going to fade this.
All right, Gary. And I mean, Burkhead is a guy that does catch the ball, so maybe he could go for 1 rushing, 1 receiving here. How do you feel about this?
Look, it's not crazy. The real issue is just they have 3 running backs, not even counting Tom Brady's patented 1-yard quarterback sneak. So there's probably just too many options to actually take this. But I will say, so far in the playoffs, the Patriots have run 12 plays inside their opponent's 5-yard line. 11 have been rushing plays, and the only time they passed the ball, it was intercepted. So if recency bias is telling us anything, it's that they can and will run the ball in for touchdowns. That speaks to Burkhead's viability, but at the same time, Sony Michel only played 13 regular season games this year and led the AFC in red zone carries. I just feel like he's playing the second banana to Sony Michel, so I got to fade this one.
And don't sleep on stud fullback James Devlin either. He's always a tricky guy to get into the end zone there. Pierce, how do you feel about Burkhead? 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl?
Well, I like Burkhead, but you got to fade this. The odds, though, as Reed mentioned, they are kind of attractive. And there is a possibility, like Gary mentioned, that, look, they're in the red zone and they like to run the ball a lot. And we know he can get probably 1 touchdown. I'd say you have really good odds of 1 touchdown. So we're really just talking about, can he get 1 more touchdown than we probably expect? So it's not crazy, but as the other guys have mentioned, there's tons of running backs. Maybe you could consider the fullback. I wasn't going to go that far, but you've got receivers, you've got Hogan, you've got Edelman, and if you ask Steve Buchanan, you got to give a touchdown to Philip Dorsett. That's pretty much a guaranteed. Maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe the Polk High 4 touchdowns for MVP Philip Dorsett. And then as Gary mentioned, that interception, they were looking for Gronk, so you can't rule out Gronk in the end zone either.
Yeah, there's a feeling here that the Patriots are trying to give Gronk a score here as a proper send-off if he does retire. So speaking of Gronk, the Rams tight ends are Gerald Everett and Tyler Higbee. They have an over-under of 44 receiving yards. Rob Gronkowski alone is set at 50.5 yards. Chase or fade, Gary, and the Rams tight ends outgain Gronk.
You got to fade this too. I understand that in the last couple of weeks, I guess really since Cooper Kupp went down, they've been featuring their tight ends a little bit more in the offensive scheme. And Gerald Everett's been playing over 50% of the snaps. They've been playing 2 tight end sets a little bit more than we saw, a lot more actually than we saw early on in the season. But the thing with Gronk, if you even want to put the narrative stuff to the side, and the narrative stuff also includes the fact that they might have just been resting Gronk the entire season for games like this. There was an obvious funnel effect happening when the Rams had both their cornerbacks healthy. The 8 games Talib and Peters played, they led the NFL in opponent tight end targets with 66 in those 8 games. Gronk's a pretty notable tight end. I think he's going to be involved in this game.
How about you, Pierce?
You got to fade this. I mean, I liked how you guys had to make sure you mentioned their first names at the beginning of the segment because no one knows who these tight ends are. They haven't been anywhere all season long. 3 times they've topped that number. And sure, they've been playing better of late, and that's probably a product of the C.J. Anderson running game. You want to have 2 tight ends in there to change your looks up. If Todd Gurley gets on the field like he should be, then we probably aren't going to see both those tight ends. And as Gary mentioned, Gronk does look like he's kind of coming to life. They went to him in the end zone last week. And maybe they want to give him a goodbye. I don't know if you really need to do that during the Super Bowl, but hey, why not?
Reed, any belief in this Rams tight end duo?
No, I want to agree with the guys. If you look at Gerald Everett, right, a guy that who is sort of this hybrid tight end, where we kind of like in Ingram, the guy in New York, right? He's got that wide receiver type body and speed, and so you kind of see how he could potentially, and he in some spots. He was someone that we did look to in GPPs, but to these guys' point, I mean, if you look at Gronk and what they're able to do, not only passer rating wise, Brady's top area on the field is that middle to short range, and that a lot of times it's the running backs, but it's also Gronk across the middle. The guy can't get any separation, and to Garen's point, that's where these guys are funneling it too. And if he goes and he splits out wide, we've seen Gronk do well on one-on-one coverage. Look, over the past Super Bowls, right, this guy has seen 12 targets, 88 yards, and about 7 receptions. He is a mainstay. I mean, he's going to be in the game scheme. He's going to be in the plan. Whether you want to say it's a send-off and you got to, take him to the give him all the production and sort of ride into the sunset.
Touchdown.
Exactly. I mean, it's Gronk's going to do it, and I don't trust these tight ends.
Yeah, Gronk, big Super Bowl last year, 2 touchdowns, over 100 yards receiving. The guy does have that ability inside him. See if he can do it one more time. Thanks, guys. We'll be back talking hoops in a little bit, but first let's get down to Atlanta. Talk to our boy Adam Kaufman.
You believe in magic?
No.
You believe in Nick Foles' magic?
Oh, no, that's different. That's a different type of magic that I do believe in. And you can't explain it, man. Nick Foles is just a guy who, he's very unassuming, very, very friendly. This whole thing back here could be on fire, and he'd look cool as a fan. Yeah, he's hey guys, things are great, and then he goes like,
"This is fine" meme.
Yeah, right, yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah. But then he goes out there and just plays, out of his mind.
Why are things so different when Foles has been in the last couple of years as opposed to Carson Wentz? It's not like Carson Wentz is a bad quarterback.
Yeah, so I think 2 different scenarios. So last year, you had Carson looking like an MVP the entire year.
Yep.
Gets hurt. Nick came in and lit it up, but I think also our defense got healthier around that same time. And so when our defense got healthier, it took a little bit of the pressure off our offense. And just as a team, we were clicking better. It had nothing to do really with Nick alone, but obviously a lot of things came together at that point.
People have been talking about it a lot, especially heading into next year. You've been asked about it. It's the stay with Nick Foles, trust that magic, go back to Carson Wentz, who is the more touted prospect, the guy who's a little bit younger. He's the more talented quarterback. I don't think anybody would dispute that. You're on the Wentz wagon. I mean, what is it that has you keep leaning back to that?
Well, it's not really being on the Wentz wagon. It's just he's our quarterback, and they drafted him for a reason. He's the face. He's a franchise player. and we understand that. We've been blessed to have Nick on as a backup quarterback the last 2 years, and for what he can do. And I think he's now put himself back into a situation where he's going to get paid, or he's going to go to a team and be a starter because they're a demand for quarterbacks, and he's obviously still got it. But when we talk about the future of your team, I don't think anybody doubts that Carson Wentz is there. So that controversy is really not in our locker room.
Sure.
We all kind of know, Carson's a quarterback, but while we have Nick, we're going to enjoy it because he can obviously, he's gotten us out of a lot of binds.
Jenkins getting involved. Mr. Kaufman has plenty of coverage throughout the weekend at Super Bowl 53 in Atlanta. We got to go back to basketball. So many variables involved with that Porzingis trade. I think my favorite might be how Mark Cuban got revenge on DeAndre Jordan.
Played that slow game but got back to him.
Yeah, just awesome stuff. All right, that's the breaking news of the day. NBA guys are back. Julian Edlow, Alex Barutha, and Chris Spagnuolo. What about news pertaining to the games tonight? We had talked about Luka Doncic being out for the Mavericks. A few players that are in the trade are out. Dennis Smith, DeAndre Jordan, Wesley Matthews are also gone. Julian, let's start with you. Anything else jumping out at you on this slate?
There's really not that much going on in terms of breaking news for this slate that we're waiting to find out. But it is pretty amazing how much impact this one trade is going to have on the slate. Just in terms of how many bodies the Mavericks just gave up. And then you top it out with Luka Doncic being ruled out. They're just going to be operating with like half a roster and the bad half of the roster at that against the Detroit Pistons. So a lot of scrubs are going to be in really good spots for Dallas. And then on the opposite side, just no DeAndre Jordan sets up such a good spot for Andre Drummond. But you can look a little deeper on Detroit. Like Reggie Jackson was in a good spot to begin the day. He's only 4,700. He's been on a roll lately. Now he gets to go up against maybe Jalen Brunson, Devin Harris, guys like that. So all the news really focuses in on this Dallas-Detroit game in my mind.
Alex, anything to add?
I have to echo that. I mean, you talk about guys like Jalen Brunson and Dwight Powell for the Mavericks, obviously going to be in play here. And as far as, potentially news coming through, we still have Kyle Kuzma questionable, Josh Hart is questionable, Avery Bradley is questionable. So it's really the game going down at Staples Center that could have a lot of implications as far as value is concerned, with a high over-under and some guys being questionable.
Chris, how about yourself? Anything else to add here?
I think just more specifically about Dallas, making sure that it is Dwight Powell starting and not Salah Mejri, because there could be a curveball there for the size that Mejri brings. And also, I guess one that we haven't talked about, Reggie Bullock, still a game time decision for the Pistons. If he's ruled out, Reggie Jackson's going to be a popular play today. I think he becomes a little safer there. If Bullock is in, he's going to take probably enough off the table. Jackson gets a little more risky than he would be otherwise, which is pretty risky anyway.
All right, good stuff.
All right, good stuff, guys. Here, all right, now let's go on to tiers of joy. Here, we want to get your guys' top choices from the lower levels of the DraftKings tier contest here. So, Alex, who is your top choice here in Tier 5? That includes, Rondo, Brandon Ingram, Turner, Cousins, Jordan. Maybe not Jordan now, but who do we like here?
Well, kind of in the game I was referring to, the Lakers-Clippers game, I do like Rondo here. He's combined for about 60 fantasy points in his past 2 games. Well, he's playing a ton of minutes. He hasn't played under 36 minutes in the past 3 games. He had an outing the first time against Minnesota where he dropped 50 fantasy points. I mean, he's always on triple-double watch. He can get some steals. He can get some blocks. As long as he keeps, he had a turnover issue last game, but I mean, this is a guy who could go for 45 fantasy points. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
Spags, just a huge pool of players here. Is there anybody in particular that you're looking at?
Yeah, I think it'd be Rondo for me too. I think he's coming off a down game last time out. I think this matchup on the other side with the Clippers is going to offer him a lot of assist opportunities here. Clippers giving up a pretty good amount of assists, and I think defensively as well, they kind of necessitate moving the ball around to find an open shooter. So it all grades out pretty well for me. But I also don't mind starting DeAndre Jordan in a celebratory vigil for him. 4-1 out, first time with the Mavericks.
There you go. I like it there. Won't help you in fantasy, but, it's a nice little nod to the trade. I like it there. Julian, you going to do that? Do you like that play?
Yeah, I'm going to fade taking the goose egg from DeAndre Jordan. But, look, Rondo was my guy here, but just to be a little different than the guys, maybe look at Brandon Ingram. If Kyle Kuzma gets ruled out once again, it opens up a bigger role for Ingram. He had a monster game against the Sixers with 48-plus DraftKings points the other night. So if Kuzma is ruled out, I think it makes Ingram a viable choice over Rondo. But either way, we're looking at this game at the Staples Center. With all this talk on the Detroit versus Dallas game, I think maybe these two West Coast games can go a little bit overlooked now, whereas they have really great point totals and should see a lot of fantasy production.
Oh, both teams in that game are comfortable with the venue, to say the least. All right, let's go to tier number 6. Darren Collison, Domantas Sabonis, Draymond, Klay Thompson, J.J. Redick. No Dennis Smith. Of course, he's in that trade today. Chris Middleton or Rudy Gay. Spags, you first.
I'm going to go with Klay Thompson here. I think we talked about it earlier with the usage issues with the Warriors, but Klay seems like the guy who's in the spot best to go off today. So I think he's the one to pick up the most usage here. I think he's also going to be the most movable here, where Jimmy Butler is going to be chasing people around, Wilson Chandler as well. So I like Klay being able to move out, get a little bit out of the pack of that group there in the tier.
Julian?
Yeah, I'm going to go with his teammate in Draymond Green, but I do agree, just like we were all kind of targeting the Lakers side of things in that other tier, we're looking at the Warriors here. This is going to be, if Philly can stay in this game and make it competitive, it makes it even more compelling. But we're looking at a really high point total nonetheless. Draymond, just for different reasons than Klay, you get the versatility here. You get the rebounds, you get the assists. He's been playing a decent amount of minutes in his recent games, scored over 36 DraftKings points in 3 of his last 4. So Klay obviously has the higher upside with his scoring ability, but Draymond maybe a little bit more consistent option here if you want to go with his teammate.
Alex, you want a Warrior or you're going somewhere else?
I was actually going to say you got to pick one of these two Warriors guys. So same ideas running through here. But I think if you're looking for a pivot, I think Rudy Gay is your only other option. I mean, maybe Greg Popovich gives LaMarcus Aldridge, less time than usual because he's been taking on a lot of extra usage with DeMar DeRozan having been out the past 3 games. And Rudy Gay is a guy who can go for 40 fantasy points. We've seen him do it within the past 3 games. He's done it before in the season. So I think if you're looking for a pivot off of these two Warriors guys, Rudy Gay is the only guy I have.
All right, guys, good chat. Stick with us, please. Showdown contest later on to preview. Super Bowl 53 prop bet discussion is coming up. But first, Levitan's Leverage, provided by Mr. Adam Levitan, a special Super Bowl edition.
It's that time, everyone. The final Levitan's Leverage of the NFL season, leading into the final biggest game of the season, Super Bowl 53, as the New England Patriots take on the Los Angeles Rams. My name is Tara Lanazak, along with DK Live's Adam Levitan. The Patriots have been in this game in 3 of the last 4 years, and for the Rams, the last time the team played for a title, they lost to New England back in 2002. Mr. Levitan, who on the Rams do you see having an impact?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are scared of Todd Gurley right now. Obviously played well behind C.J. Anderson in the championship round, split carries with him for the most part in the divisional round. But I think Todd Gurley getting 2 weeks off will help. And I'm not sure if he's really been hurt anyways. Sean McVay has talked about getting him very involved in this game, which would make sense given how slow New England's linebackers are. So if the Rams fall behind, I think we'll see a ton of Todd Gurley in the pass game. Full PPR scoring on DraftKings, I think, is a big factor. And he'll also go under-owned because people are so scared of the C.J. Anderson factor.
All right, and on the other side of the ball, James White is $10,800 as a captain and $7,200 as a flex. Is that too much to pass up?
Yeah, I think that James White is one of the more fairly priced players on the Patriots, and we know Rex Burkhead is going to play. We know Sony Michel is going to play, but we've seen time and time again in these big playoff spots, Tom Brady loves to check it down and loves to check it down to James White. So we have upside on a guy who can catch 6, 7, 8 balls and has reasonable touchdown expectation as well. I think James White's price is really, really appealing.
And who else could you give a leg up on the competition?
Yeah, so in Showdown specifically, I think using kickers is going to be in play almost always, just because they open up so much. And when we have offenses that are really tightly concentrated, like the Patriots and like the Rams are, we need to have enough money to spend on guys like Brady and Goff and White and Robert Woods, etc. So by using someone like Steven Gostkowski, who's way down in the 3K range, it makes a lot of sense because it gives us access to all those other players. So it's not that exciting to play a kicker. No one is going to call it very sexy or anything like that, but I always think that it's in play in Showdown.
All right, and real quick, how do you see this one playing out?
Oh, good question. I think that the Patriots have a little bit too much of the experience on their side. I think we could see Jared Goff come in here and get just a little bit tight, especially at the beginning, and I think that'll be enough in a really close game for the Patriots to get it done yet again.
Thanks, Adam. That'll do it for this final Levitan's leverage of the NFL season.
All right, good luck.
All right, taking a look at the prop bets heading into Super Bowl 53. And to help us out with that, we're going to take a look at our experts here. Pierce Dietrich, Reed Fowler, and Gary and Thorne here. Boys, let's start with the MVP race. The prop for the most valuable player to be a wide receiver is plus 1,000. Pretty good money there. So if it happens, so now we got to go with the assumption that it's going to happen, that it's going to be a wide receiver. Reed, who is it going to be?
Yeah, I think the safest bets here are going to be Edelman and Robert Woods. Edelman, if you just look at back to the 2013 AFC Championship game, this guy is averaging double-digit targets. I mean, he clearly is the number one option for Brady and for the Patriots when it comes to crunch time in the playoffs. And if you look at Robert Woods, what he's been able to do this season, from a DraftKings standpoint, right, only hit single digits twice in the season. Over the last 4 weeks of the regular season, this guy averaged the highest in terms of air yards, yards after catch. Goff really trusts this guy. And so when you look at the Super Bowl and you just look at it in a vacuum of what these guys are potentially going to be able to do, it has to be one of these two guys. And Super Bowl MVP going to the receivers, it hasn't happened in a while. Obviously, Hines Ward, Deion Branch, I believe the last two guys to do it. So it's going to be tough, but those are the two guys that I would choose.
Yeah, Edelman seems like the clear-cut guy if it's going to be a Patriot. But maybe it's a former Patriot that could get it there. You know, a little revenge game thing with Brandon Cooks.
Two games in a row.
I know, right? The Saints now, and then you get the Patriots. So, Pierce, maybe is it Brandon Cooks or is it somebody else?
Well, you could see a revenge game 2 weeks in a row, but knowing Bill Belichick, I say it like he's my best friend, but I feel like we all know him pretty well. What Belichick does is he shuts down the best player, and Brandon Cooks is going to be the guy they target. Stephon Gilmore is going to be the guy that shuts him down, and Gilmore's been great in the playoffs. I just don't see it working out for Cooks. We could break down the matchups for all these guys, and we're kind of getting deep in the weeds here. We only have one game to look at, so we're looking at every single matchup. We're probably making it more difficult on ourselves. We just go with what Reed said, that probably the best receiver is Julian Edelman. He's been putting up the numbers, and if we want to look at the matchups, he's going to draw Marcus Peters, and I'm sure Steve Buchanan's pumping his fist somewhere right now, really excited about that. That's the place you go. It's the most likely candidate.
I can believe that Pierce is buddies with Belichick. He's got the short sleeves.
Yeah, you know, you do the cutoffs. You just got to cut it. I mean, then you'll be all set there. Then it's the real deal.
Pierce smiles too much, though, to be friends with Belichick.
That they were doing, though, on opening night when it was the fashionable cutoff hoodies. No, I want the real hoodies that you take a scissor to. Garion, let's get back on track here. Is there a wide receiver that you like that could be the MVP?
Yeah, I'm going to kind of disagree with these guys a little bit. I mean, look, we don't have any set in stone on who's going to be covering who and who's going to be assigned to who, but like Pro Football Focus thinks J.C. Jackson is going to be on Brandon Cooks, and I don't think it's definitive that Cooks is the guy that Belichick's going to take away. I mean, as Reed said, a lot of the statistics suggest that Robert Woods might be their wide receiver one, and I think the fact that we can't even really determine that speaks to how hard it is to just take something away from the Rams necessarily. And while Woods and obviously Julian Edelman bring the highest floors to the table, as Reed mentioned, only 6 wide receivers in the 52 Super Bowls we've had have won MVP. It takes a Herculean effort to be a wide receiver and take it away from your quarterback, who is also getting in on these touchdowns. And I think the one guy who could actually produce a stat line that could earn him the MVP is Brandon Cooks. I mean, he leads the Rams in yards per reception. If he does see a lot of J.C. Jackson, I mean, Jackson's a good cornerback, but he was someone the Chiefs picked on a lot last week. And if you look at the target numbers per route covered for the Patriots, he's someone that opponents generally have picked on this season, as opposed to going at those more experienced cornerbacks. So where Edelman could definitely finish with like 9 catches for 110 yards and a touchdown, I just don't think that's enough to be the MVP. Cooks could finish for 170 and 2 scores because he breaks off a 90-yard touchdown. So give me Brandon Cooks.
All right, Sully, you're on to something over there. Looking at the Patriots backfield now, the over-under for Sony Michel in this game is 80.5 rushing yards. Do you like the over or under here, Garion?
Over. If I didn't talk up Sony Michel enough in the first segment, Sony Michel is my guy who I'm using as my captain's pick in all my showdown lineups. I think the Patriots can run the ball on the Rams. I don't see how he doesn't get at least 20 carries. Like I mentioned off the top, he leads the AFC in red zone rushing attempts. The Patriots have been running the ball inside the 5, inside the 10 for the majority of these playoffs, I think this sets up beautifully for Sony Michel, way over this number.
Reed, the Pats kind of went away from Michel in that win over Kansas City. He might have been injured, but does that worry you at all for this 80.5 number?
No, it doesn't worry me that he might have been injured. What worries me a little bit, and if you look historically, and I'm just going to disagree a little bit, and like all the points that Garen is making are absolutely true, right? Sony Michel, fantastic historically this season. So leads you to think 80.5 is pretty short in terms of that number. But if you look at the Patriots in these past Super Bowls, they've historically been slow starters, right? Down against the Eagles, down against Falcons, only leading by one against the Giants a few years ago. Like, they are historically slow starters, and that might be Bill Belichick trying to work out the formations in his 8 to 10 new plays that he wrote up in, on a notepad at the hotel before the game started. Like, we've just seen the Patriots start off pretty slow. We've seen James White and some of these other ancillary pieces in the offense outside of the running back do not necessarily well, but get more production. Like, Sony Michel can hit this number. He's hit quite a bit this season. But I'm just going to play a little devil's advocate and say that 80.5, he goes a little bit under that.
Pierce, where's your mind at on Sony Michel?
I'm leaning towards over, but there's a word of caution should be taken here. We are really excited after that Chargers game that Sony Michel is the next big thing, and we may have rushed to put him up on the pedestal. We saw quickly last week that he's still good. He does pass the eyeball test, and I think he will go over. But we're talking about the New England Patriots. How many times have we been burned by the New England Patriots and running backs? They can go so many different ways at running back that this is just not a lock. I think it goes over, but this is not a safe pick at all.
Yeah, no, it's a Patriots running back after all. I mean, that is the fantasy narrative. You can never trust the Patriots running back, or at least that's what's been the case over the last few years. All right, well, that is the New England backfield, but what about the Rams now, Pierce? Todd Gurley over-under is set at 91.5 rushing yards. Does he get there?
Here's the crazy thing, that we probably have a better idea what the Patriots running backs are going to do than we do when it comes to the Rams running backs. It's insane that we know that Michel and White are going to split time, and we have no idea what Gurley is going to do. We are a couple of days away from the Super Bowl, and nothing has been cleared up. I'm still leaning now towards C.J. Anderson being the guy in that backfield. And you look at the Patriots' run defense since they got shredded by the Steelers a couple weeks before the playoffs. That run defense has been really strong. They've held people to around 40 yards a game. I don't think he gets there.
All right, Garen, do you feel that same way, or do you think that we'll see a more familiar Todd Gurley this week?
No, I mean, I'm going to echo what Pierce said. Like, I personally think I have a much better grasp on what the Patriots running back situation looks like than the Rams. I have no idea how this is going to shake down. And while part of me wants to say, like, the squeaky wheel's going to get the grease, not that Gurley has even really been distressed in the media about what happened during the NFC Championship game. He was almost cordial about it post-game, which I guess good for Todd Gurley for being a great teammate, but I just don't know. Anderson's been effective. You can look at this game from a narrative sense too, or a script sense, and while Reed's right, the Patriots tend to get down in these contests. They are the favorite in this game. I assume they're going to win this contest, and if this was total yards, it'd be different, but rushing yards, he might get scripted out of this in the second half. So I'm just going to have to take the under because that's kind of what logic dictates.
All right, Reed, how do you feel about this matchup? And I believe it is total yards here, so we might be onto this here.
Yeah, I mean, it's so weird to think that Todd Gurley can get scripted out of a game. I mean, this guy was the best running back, clear number one running back of the season, but towards the end, around the playoffs, clearly not the number one running back. That goes to his teammate, C.J. Anderson, and what he's been able to do. But I'm going to take the over in this, again, just to play a little devil's advocate and take away recency bias. I've been, sort of a fool to think that Todd Gurley potentially isn't the best player. Like, he's the best player in this game. And if you look at historically the Patriots, while this season they've had trouble with the speedy backs, like the Nyheim Hines, the Tariq Cohens, these guys who have quick, Todd Gurley isn't that type of running back, but the Patriots have given up a ton of yards. If you look at past Super Bowls, you have LeGarrette Blount, right, with the Eagles, 90 total yards. You have Freeman going for a total of 121 yards. And so if we do think that the Patriots are going to win, they're going to win on Brady's back, and it's going to be a high-scoring game, I do think Gurley can get over 91.5 total yards here.
All right, thanks, boys. We'll have you back to dive into even more prop bets. NBA is on the way next, but first we have former Giants receiver Victor Cruz having some fun with fans and us here at DraftKings.
Ask him when he's going to propose. Ask him the date. Ask him how many months it's going to take him to propose.
Nope, not gonna ask that.
I'm just trying to push
People are telling me that you're looking to propose to your girlfriend. I'm sorry.
I'm not doing this. Tracy, I'm not doing this anymore.
All right, Victor Cruz, a UMass guy, a Super Bowl champion, salsa dancer extraordinaire, all-around good guy. And today he's gonna help us prank some unsuspecting fans.
We're doing a promo, what you guys are shooting with Victor Cruz for a new DraftKings series, okay? So it's gonna be during the big game and everything like that.
Tracy is playing our over-the-top director. She's gonna be the one feeding cues to our fans on set.
Victor's chill, we all know, but here's the thing. We have to make sure, no politics, we're not doing politics, no religion, okay, no personal stuff, all right?
And I'm the host. Now I'll be going off script, making Victor uncomfortable and putting the fan in an awkward position.
Emerson's gonna make sure that everything runs smoothly, okay?
And by smoothly, she means go terribly wrong.
Hi, Victor.
How are you?
I'm good.
What's
good
your
to
name?
see you. April.
I'm Pablo. This is nuts. See, we got the tan memo going. Yeah, I like it. I like it.
I didn't get the memo, I guess. Welcome everyone to DraftKings Presents Having Beers With. And today we're having beers with the one, the only, Hector Cruz. And
It's Victor.
Handy, my bad, Handy.
It's Victor. Victor Cruz.
What'd I say?
You said Hector.
You said Hector. It's Victor.
Victor.
I'm not big into like giant spiders.
Just let's go, come on.
All right,
go.
I'll do it again.
Do it again.
Victor Cruz in the house.
What's going on?
I had to say what I'm
I like it. I like it.
sorry,
I like it.
You can do whatever you'd like, man. This is your interview, kid.
First question.
Is Tom Brady the greatest quarterback of all time?
I mean, Eli's my guy, obviously. Let me get that out the way really quick.
It's Eli, Tom Brady.
That doesn't make any sense. Brady and then hello down there, Eli.
Let's give him some respect, Emerson.
Okay.
Okay?
What is your love life like these days?
I specifically, we talked about, that question was off limits.
I was
Tracy?
curious. I was curious.
Okay.
The whole love
All right,
life
let's
thing,
cut
we
for a
thought that
second.
was...
Three. All right. Vic, Pablo wants to know, though, if you really do have anything juicy in your personal life that you could share with us.
Nothing about my personal life will be told here today.
So you were fearless on the football field.
What are some of your greatest fears off the field?
Oh, man.
Fearless man on, you gotta have some fears off.
It's got to be frogs, actually.
Frogs?
It was.
Frogs?
Yeah, it's weird,
Really?
but something when I was young, kind of crazy happened to me, and it's just.
Right, it's frogs.
Yeah.
Some of us have kind of did a little bit of research beforehand, maybe knew that already, and I think it's time for you to kick the fear.
No, we're not doing.
We got a little shoebox
What?
of frogs.
No, Tracy.
Bring it,
Tracy.
Okay, all right, okay,
He's
Victor.
bringing frogs out.
All right,
just said.
okay, I'm sorry.
I'm not doing this. Tracy, I'm not doing this anymore. We
I'm
just
so
had the
sorry.
conversation.
I know,
What the
it's
hell are
all
we
over
supposed
the
to do?
And
place.
this is the second
We're just-
time he's done it.
I know.
And these
I
are
know.
things that I specifically talked about.
I don't understand.
I know.
do not want frogs. My fear, I told you about
I
this
know,
already.
I know, and we're just trying to maybe do a little push you out of the usual stuff, and
I
maybe
get
it's
it.
wrong.
I
maybe
get it.
it's wrong.
I can't do Emerson anymore.
But Emerson's done.
You've done interviews with athletes, though.
I am used to dealing with athletes.
So you gotta go. You gotta get
Because
off.
of the frog.
Because of the
question?
frogs.
Well, that's
Okay,
all.
we have 14 frogs, and that's just he's done with it.
Well, you know what I'm gonna do?
Okay.
I'm going hang out with the
just
frogs.
go. Okay, I'm so sorry.
All right.
All right.
Sorry about that,
It's
Dan.
all
We're
right.
back. It's just me and you
Yeah,
now,
just
man.
me and you.
I don't
Victor
know.
Cruz, obviously you see Victor Cruz, you know Victor. My name's Dan, by the way. Nice to meet you again.
Nice to meet you too, man. Let's do this right this time. Let's do it right.
Dan, your
Yep.
final question. Ask him when he's gonna propose to his girlfriend.
Oh, all right.
Let's keep it about sports.
We're gonna keep it about sports.
I mean, that's what we're angling here.
Dan, try to push it though. Try to push
All right,
it.
all right.
Okay, just try to push
People are telling me that you're looking to propose to your girlfriend. I'm sorry.
Are they telling you to say that?
No, I brought it up. I saw it on Instagram.
We're ready for one more question, right?
Last question of the day.
All right, let's just make sure we keep it on topic.
Ask him when he's gonna propose. Ask him the date. Ask him how many months it's gonna take
ask me a
him to
question?
propose.
Nope, not gonna ask that. So,
What's that?
Nothing.
Okay.
Okay. So Jerica, just actually just ask him, just like, yeah, Miss Piggy or Kermit the Frog.
Okay, so either or, Miss Piggy or Kermit the Frog. Super serious question.
You guys are kidding me, right? You guys are kidding me.
How does it feel seeing Tom come back and play for the last one? You know, you think this could be his last one? I mean,
let me ask you a question real quick, Chris. How does it feel to be pranked by DraftKings and Sam Adams?
yeah, I'm about to say, y'all about to get my ass. I knew that coming on. There wasn't no way in hell I was gonna ask that.
All right, let me ask you a question, Jerica, right? How does it feel to be pranked by DraftKings and Sam Adams?
Oh my God, thank God. I was like, there is so much tension.
You got pranked.
You were so lost.
Oh man, you owe me a selfie, a couple autographs.
Oh, yeah, I got
Thank you.
No problem.
And you brought in one of my favorite
to do it.
football players of all time.
I've been pranked! I've been pranked! Got a little heated, but hey, cool off. Sam 76, kid. You've earned it. Nice job, nice job.
Those poor people, they were totally fooled. Good stuff from Emerson and the entire crew in New Jersey. All right, let's go back to the hoops talk. We welcome back DK Live's Julian Edlow, RotoWire's Alex Barutha, and Chris Spagnuolo of Awesemo.com. Guys, looking at the showdown contest tonight between the Nets and Spurs. Julian, we'll keep it simple with this first question. Who is your captain for this showdown tonight?
Yeah, I'm going to look at Rondé Hollis-Jefferson here and try and save at least a little bit of money in the captain spot. RHJ has been really good since he entered the starting lineup. He's been averaging about 24 minutes over the last 3 games and scored essentially over 25 DK points in each of them. So I think there's some decent players in this game that we can fill all the flex spots out with. So I'm trying to save a little bit of money and trying to get a value captain there. And I think Hollis-Jefferson's kind of the best point per dollar guy on the slate.
Spags, your captain.
I'm going to pay up a little more, go to DeMar DeRozan. He's coming off of some knee problems, but he's gotten a little bit of rest there. I think some people are going to chase LaMarcus Aldridge, and a lot of his recent success is because just there's been no DeRozan on the floor, a lot of usage left behind. So I think this is a good spot for DeRozan, a lot of mid-range slash and kick game, which should benefit versus a Nets team who really focuses on closing out on three-point shooters.
DeRozan right now probable for tonight's game. Alex, your captain pick for Nets Spurs showdown.
Yeah, I don't mind paying up either. I'll go D'Angelo Russell. I know he's the highest guy on the slate as far as price is concerned, but at the same time, he's posted at least 50 DraftKings points in 5 of the past 8 games. There's just no one else on this slate who I feel safe enough that has that 50 fantasy point upside like Russell. So I don't mind paying up for him. I'll try to get value elsewhere.
All right, Alex, so if you're going to go with Russell there at the captain spot, is there anybody that you're going to specifically pair him with in this matchup?
I am interested in going Joe Harris at 4,800. I mean, he's a guy who we've seen get 30 fantasy points twice in the past 5 games. So he's only 4,800. If this ends up being, more of a shootout than people might expect, Joe Harris is probably going to be launching off a lot of shots. So, I mean, it's 7 3-point attempts in the last game. I every once in a while he goes off. Might have relatively low ownership. Don't mind the play.
All right, Spags, is there somebody that you're eyeing there to pair with your captain?
Yeah, I'd want to run it back with D'Angelo Russell and come back with another high usage guy. For all the reasons Alex mentioned, he looks like a strong play. And I also think, too, for Kenny Atkinson, this is a bit of a statement game going against his old coach. I think he's going to need Russell to be at peak form here as a playmaker and a scorer to keep it close. And, the Nets are in the playoff hunt. They actually are currently in the playoffs in the East. I think this is a good statement game for them to remind everybody, like, hey, we've actually been playing well, and Russell is a big reason behind that.
All right, Julian, who are you going to use as a compliment to your captain?
Yeah, well, part of the reason that I'm captaining Rondé Hollis-Jefferson is because I can't pick between both of those guys. I want Russell and LaMarcus Aldridge, the two most expensive guys on the slate. So the guys already touched on why you should want Russell on your lineup. But in terms of Aldridge, yes, it's a little bit scary that he's been getting all this production with DeMar DeRozan off the floor, but he's actually $200 cheaper in showdown mode than he was the last time that DeMar DeRozan played. So you're getting a little bit of a discount, and big men just destroy the Nets up front. If there's one area, the Nets are an improved team. They're decent this year, but if there's an area that they just get gashed, it is by opposing big men, and LaMarcus Aldridge has the skill set to take advantage of that. So I think I can get both of those guys into my lineup by going a little cheaper at captain.
All right, we have the guys leading the squads for you fellas, but now we have to build a roster around them. Spags, you mentioned DeRozan and D'Angelo Russell for your team. Where's some value now that you're finding in the showdown?
I would go to Bryn Forbes. Bryn Forbes is more of a three-point shooter, and as I mentioned, the Nets do limit threes pretty well on an attempt basis. But I think Bryn Forbes is a guy where they're going to key in on DeRozan, they're going to key in on Aldridge. I think that usually benefits Bryn Forbes quite a bit. Rudy Gay as well, being back in the lineup in full health. It just creates more space for Forbes, and he's a guy who can pick up whatever's left behind. And I think versus the Nets here, there's going to be quite a bit left behind for him to grab.
Julian, who are you looking for? Value between Nets Spurs.
That's actually my guy, $4,200 for Bryn Forbes. I like this spot for him. He's a good scorer. He can do some other things across the board. The last time DeRozan played, Bryn Forbes was able to score 26 DraftKings points, so you don't have to be afraid of playing him with DeRozan in the lineup as well. So I think he's a good salary saver on this slate. There's not much value on this slate, so it's not like there's going to be a real home run spot, but Forbes is in a good enough spot to trust him.
Alex, you on the Forbes list as well?
He was the guy I was going to mention, so I'll pivot off of him. I'll go Ed Davis at 4,100. He's a little bit of a risk, but at the same time, Coach Kenny Atkinson is essentially having him split time with Jared Allen. So those two are just as risky as one another, and most people will probably be inclined to go Jared Allen. But we saw Ed Davis put up 45 DraftKings points against the Knicks just on January 25th. We saw him put up 31.5 DraftKings points against Atlanta. He's gone for 25 DraftKings points in like 6 of the past 15 games. I mean, like I mentioned, I think if anyone's going a center for the Nets, they're going to go Jared Allen, but I think you can pivot off of him, go lower ownership, get Ed Davis out of value.
All right, Alex, we'll keep it here with you now with the slate-approved pick. Who is your lock of the night?
I don't necessarily have one lock per se, but you got to get value on the Dallas Mavericks. So I'll just say I'll go Jalen Brunson if I have to pick one name, because they do have more options in the front court than in the back court.
All right, Spags?
I'll also go Mavericks value there with Dwight Powell. I've mentioned him enough times this show. I'm a big fan of his when he actually gets run, getting over 1 fantasy point per minute when he's been playing already. Now there's nobody else who can grab rebounds there or could even possibly contend with Andre Drummond. It's a good spot for Powell as long as he doesn't pick up fouls really fast.
Julian, hit us with it.
Yeah, you're going to be loading your lineup up with the Mavericks value plays, but I'm going to go with Giannis Antetokounmpo here. I think it's a better spot than people think against Toronto. He's faced Toronto twice this season. He averages over 64 DK points against them. I think he has the highest floor and ceiling on this slate, so I'm building around Giannis. And then when you plug all those Dallas values in, you can easily fit in your Drummonds, your Embiids, your Currys, your KD. You can easily fit 2 to 3 studs on this slate.
Julian, Alex, Chris, thanks so much. Enjoy the games. We have more NFL after this.
Tara Lenizak here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Only 3 games in the NHL tonight, so let's focus on the DK Showdown contest between the Columbus Blue Jackets and Winnipeg Jets. The Jackets are looking to snap a season-high 3-game losing streak, during which they've been outscored by an 11-6 margin. Over the next month leading up to the NHL trade deadline, all eyes will be on winger Artemi Panarin, who will become a free agent at season's end and has made it known he will not negotiate a contract until then. With the Jackets in the thick of the playoff race, it would be difficult for them to justify trading their superstar, but it appears Panarin wants out. None of this makes him a bad DFS play, though. The 27-year-old has been on a roll lately with 6 goals and 4 assists over his last 7 games. He will also be happy to go on the road to Winnipeg tonight, as he heard his fair share of boos Monday in his own barn. Panarin will cost you $10,400 in tonight's showdown against the Jets and should lead a Blue Jackets offense that needs to show some urgency.
All right, final few moments here on The Sweat. We're going to squeeze in a few more NFL prop bets before we get out of here, and we do that as we welcome back DK Lives, Pierce Dietrich, Reed Fowler, and Gary and Thorne. Guys, let's start with the defensive side of the ball here. I know we don't normally do that in fantasy, but it's nice with some prop bets here with Aaron Donald. He is the favorite to have the most sacks, which is why the payout is just plus 100 for Super Bowl 53. So anyone else stand out here as a more lucrative pick here, Garen? I mean, we're trying to make some money after all.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because the Patriots really haven't had that much success getting after the quarterback, at least to start the season. But I guess Trey Flowers would be the guy I would kind of turn to at this point. I mean, I think with the way the Patriots kind of organize their offense, how many 3-step drops Brady has, the depth of the passes he throws most of the time. And again, if you kind of buy into my narrative that they're going to be running the ball a lot, that means less opportunities to get sacks. I probably wouldn't be looking at Aaron Donald at that level of odds. So Trey Flowers is kind of an intriguing name.
All right, Pierce, and it should be noted, by the way, with the NFL, you have Dante Hightower, who missed practice on Thursday due to an illness here, so that does kind of maybe impact this going into it. So, Pierce, is there a defensive guy not named Aaron Donald that you like to get the most sacks in this game?
Not really. This is not a bet that I'm really looking to get into, but if you are, Garion's probably right. It's going to be Trey Flowers with 9.5 sacks this year, 7 sacks in the last 9 games. He must have remembered that he's going to be a free agent at the end of the season, and he's turned it on. He's playing pretty well, and this is, if he has a good game, he could add maybe another 0 or at least another $500,000 to whatever contract he's going to get. So this is a big game for him besides it being just a Super Bowl. And if you're kind of playing this game out in your head, if you're thinking any team can get ahead and put the pressure on the other team to pass a lot, then it's probably New England being up and forcing the Rams to pass. So if there's multiple sacks, I think it's going to come from the New England side, and Trey Flowers would be my guy.
Yeah, Trey Flowers does seem like the easy pick there. Although Kyle Van Noy did have a couple of sacks there in the AFC Championship. Reed, how do you see this shaking out?
Yeah, I love the Patriot homers here, knowing all the stats about the Patriot guy.
Let's not hide it.
I love it. Trey Flowers, man, fantastic. He's really added a whole new dynamic to that defense that was really struggling. And he is the reason why this defense right now is playing well, obviously getting in that right position to get to the quarterback. But if you look at New England, too, they're second in the regular season to expected sack rate or projected sack rate when other teams are passing. The only team that was worse was the Raiders. And so when you're that close in the stat category to the Raiders, it's pretty bad. So that scares me a little bit about Trey Flowers if we think, again, this is going to be a high-scoring game. If we think that the Rams are going to be playing from behind, this one's tough. I mean, Fowler and Sue and those guys on the other side do present some value, but like Garion and Pierce mentioned, it's tough when you have a guy that rarely gets sacked and he's not getting sacked in the postseason. So I would stay away from this bet, but I do like following the other guys in the Rams better.
We discussed earlier in the show the mystery behind the Los Angeles Rams backfield, the running backs, and we don't know much about Todd Gurley. We want to ask now about C.J. Anderson. Reed, do you see C.J. Anderson going over or under 11.5 rushing attempts?
Yeah, this one's interesting, right? Again, I mean, this guy over the last 4 games, he's been averaging close to 20 attempts. And so why is this number so low? Thinking that obviously the Rams are going to be playing from behind. This is sort of a complimentary bet or a prop that I do like why Gurley goes over those total yards. And so I got to say over here just because of what we've seen. If the Rams do get up early, right, and the Patriots are a little slow out of the gate, I do think that Anderson does get the lion's share of these carries in the second quarter, the latter part of the first half. So I'll say over.
Pierce?
You can probably throw out the games where Gurley wasn't playing, but even when Gurley was in the game, 23 carries against the Cowboys, 16 carries against the Saints, this number, like Reed mentioned, seems really low. It's very strange. I think the odds makers are telling us something that maybe Gurley's fine, and maybe we're overreacting because we've had 2 weeks to talk nothing but daily fantasy, and we've created this idea that Todd Gurley's broken. He's probably completely okay. If they're only saying 11 carries for C.J. Anderson, they're probably also telling us that the Patriots are going to get up on these guys pretty early.
All right, Garion.
Yeah, I think the scary thing for me, again, is just I've mainly been operating out of a narrative where I believe the Patriots are leading this game. It doesn't even have to be by a significant margin. I just think they're going to be the ones dictating this game and maybe even owning the time of possession if they do run the ball as much as I think they do. So that's going to limit opposing plays. Like, we're talking about a team who last week ran 97 offensive plays to the Chiefs' 55. Like, they can do that sort of thing and just limit the volume of the opposing teams. But, you know, would I be shocked if Sean McVay remembers that a healthy Todd Gurley is arguably one of the best running backs in the game and C.J. Anderson has 6 carries by the fourth quarter? No, that wouldn't be overly surprising. But given the way he's been utilized the last couple of weeks and given the fact we've been led to believe Todd Gurley is at 100% health, give me the slide over here.
All right, got to be quick here, but, I mean, we have to throw in the all-important prop bet, the coin toss. The Rams are plus 310 to win the coin toss and the game. Meanwhile, the Patriots are just plus 240 with the same bet. So, who do you like here, Gary, and quickly?
Don't bet the coin toss.
All right, fair enough. Pierce?
Who cares about the coin toss? Unfortunately, the Patriots are going to win.
All right, Reed?
Give me the Rams here. Did some research. Heads 25 times, tails 27 times. So, I mean, again, you'll go with the Rams here. The Patriots probably already, they win this most of the time, but give me the Patriots, or give me the Rams at better odds.
Pierce is definitely not friends with
I'm usually
Belichick.
a tails never fails guy, though.
All right, we're out of time. Come back with us tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern until 7 o'clock Eastern. DraftKings Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and the DK Live app. We'll have more Super Bowl coverage from Adam Kaufman in Atlanta. We'll cover the bases on everything tomorrow. Tyler, see you later.
See ya.